Call to order the regular council meeting of Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. It was moved by Councillor Gadry, seconded by Councillor Bouchard. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of November 25th, 2025 be approved as printed. All those in favor? Great. The Township of Blackburn-Masson acknowledges the Apatipi and Assinipiq Nation traditional territory. We live, play, and work here together, and together we shall build a strong and inclusive community. A reminder to all in attendance that council meetings are recorded and made available to the public on the Township website for review. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Oh, that's better. Was moved by Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor Bouchard. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following council meetings be approved as printed. October 28th, 2025, regular. November 3rd, 2025, emergency. All those in favor? It was moved by Councillor Gadry, second by Councillor Campbell. Be it resolved that council hereby receives the minutes of the following external committee meetings as presented. The Northeastern Public Health, September 25, 2025. Questions or comments on that? All those in favor? It's moved by Councillor Bouchard, second by Councillor Campbell. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the November 25th, 2025 regular council agenda be received by council, and that the recommendations and motions contained therein be supported as presented. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Brings us on to our first delegation, which is our water and wastewater master plan presentation by Ottawa. And Mr. Chris Chirac is here.
Good evening. I'll have two of my fellow co-workers as well joining via the Zoom.
Okay.
So we can get them up on the board in their presentation.
Okay, whenever the floor is yours.
Perfect. All right, Mayor and Council, we thank you guys very much for taking the time this evening. We're here to present a master plan for the municipality. I'll do an introduction. We have Jose Casal, he's one of our project engineers, and Lisa Babel is our director of engineering for Ontario Clean Water Agency. So just give some background information on this. The master plan is pretty well a roadmap that outlines what your requirements are for regulatory requirements, infrastructure upgrades, public consultations, etc., to be able to put the municipality in a position for future growth and development. So that's the general purpose of the master plan. And I'll pass it on to Lisa and Jose for the main presentation. And if there's any questions, Jose, Lisa, and myself are here to help out and accommodate your questions this evening.
Thank you, Chris. I hope everyone can hear me. Just a question. Do you want me to share the slides, or are you seeing our slide presentation we provided previously?
We'll share. Give her control so she can share. Yeah. You can share, Lisa.
I can share? Okay. Okay. Share. And I put that in slideshow mode, and I'm hoping everybody can see that. Yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for letting Jose and I come today and talk to you about water and wastewater master planning. This is based on a meeting we had a little bit earlier this month, and we were asked to come and talk a little bit about this. So your existing water infrastructure, so the Matheson drinking water system, it's a large municipal residential system, subclass or class 2 facility has a groundwater, 4 groundwater wells as the raw water source. It currently has a rated capacity in the municipal drinking water license of about 1,710 cubic meters per day. And currently that system is only operating at 31% of its rated capacity as per your 2024 annual report. The 2025 one will not be coming out until about usually February, March is when we put those out. The sewage treatment plant, on the other hand, it's a class 2 facility, and it's running at about 74.4% of its rated capacity. And so the question came to us is about, do we have a room in there how much room do we have in there to grow and additional capacity in that plant? So the plant is currently rated at a capacity of about 1,000 cubic meters per day with a peak flow of just over 3,000 cubic meters per day. It serves a population of about 900 people. We need to confirm how much stormwater actually gets into that sanitary sewer. There has been some reports that there's some weeping tiles and things that are going in there and collecting some stormwater in there. There's 3 sewage pump stations with different size pipes, some 8-inch diameter pipe and 4-inch diameter force mains. And there's 2 collection sort of systems. There's pump station number 1 that collects flows, and then there's pump station 3 that is actually feeding pump station 2. So there's sort of 2 main areas that are feeds that go into that sewage plant. So for future growth, we understand that there is some municipal development going on to look at some future growth in the area, as well as some future development that you're planning to do, including maybe some mining camps and some additional houses that you'd like to see on there. So we want to talk a little bit about how to handle that additional flow. So the challenge that we really have in front of us is, can the existing infrastructure support the current planned and future growth? And if so, how much growth can it support? And if not, then what is needed to support that either the current situation or the future growth in the community? So one of the questions we often get asked here at Aqua is, we have all these different plans and how do they all fit together? So I think that many of you would be familiar with the operations plan, and that's the plan that Chris and his team put together for the town. And it talks about, I think they share with you some capital requests that they have each year of what they need to maintain the operation of the plant and keep it running smoothly. And then in addition to that, I think many people are familiar with the asset management plan. This is Regulation 588, came out a few years ago and requires that each municipality or each facility have an asset management plan that's pulled together to talk about how to maintain the assets and keep them running and to maintain them for their overall life expectancy. And then there's this third piece that we get lots of questions about, which is a master plan. And how does that fit in with everything else? So the master plan is really the document that looks at the future levels of service. So your asset management plan, your operations plan is looking at your current levels of service. And by levels of service, what I mean is the items around like the flows that you're actually having to treat, the drinking water that you're actually having to provide for the community that you currently have today. The future levels of service is how much more needs to be added into the community. What are those future flows looking like? I put development plans on there because that's also one of the main plans that feeds in to that future level of service. It's those development plans and those growth plans that really sort of dictate what that future level of service actually looks like. So really those 3 plans together all kind of come together, and that's what really forms your overall financial plans for the community. So looking at what you need to do to maintain the facilities today, as well as what you need to do to grow the facilities over time so that it keeps up with those development plans. And of course, this entire thing sort of exists in this world of risk. And this whole idea is really trying a risk management exercise. So we're really trying to understand, because we don't have a perfect crystal ball into the future, as we're trying to manage what does the future look like and how do we manage those risks. So a little bit more details on the master plan. So the master plan starts by collecting a lot of data. So we compile a lot of information from a bunch of different sources, including things like development plans and growth plans. We look at the current infrastructure. We look at what's there, maybe what some bottlenecks are in the existing system. We look at the different servicing strategies as part of the master plan. So what do we want the community to look like going into the future? There's different ways that you can sometimes achieve the same end goal. And so it looks at a bit of a trade-off study of those different options. And it ranks those options based on things like technical evaluations, environmental evaluations, and also there's a financial and social component to that as well. And on the social side, a master plan provides opportunity for the public and other stakeholders to provide input into those plans so that you're getting a very well-rounded plan that's accepted by everyone that's impacted by it. It provides a roadmap of the needed projects that you would need to execute to achieve that future level of service. And it also provides a timeline as to when those would be expected. Typically, a master plan would go for 15, 20 years out and would sort of show you when those projects need to be completed and the timelines associated with them. And of course, this master plan is really a living document. It does need to be updated on a regular basis. Typically, many of the larger communities do that every 5 years. I've seen them done a little bit, spread out a little bit longer than that, but that's just to reflect changes in, your population growth and the technologies that come out. Sometimes it's environmental needs, things like that. So some of the other components of a master plan. So the master plan follows the municipal class environmental assessment process. And so I think many people would be familiar with the class, what we call a municipal class EA. And so the master plan is really the first part of a municipal class EA. So when you do a master plan, you're able to use the information and the steps that you've completed towards a class EA. So it shortens that class EA process down. The master plan, I said, provides that comprehensive strategy for what the water and wastewater servicing can be over that 25-year period to support the community's growth. It looks at different items like the current capacity, the conditions of the plant, the age of the plants, what you need to do to maintain those and move them forward. It looks at the growth projections that you have in your community and understands where you want to develop. Not only the numbers, but also the locations and what would need to be done. So if you need to add pumping stations in certain areas because you're now going to be developing part of the community that doesn't have a pumping station, or you need to find a way to get that sewage or that drinking water to that part of the community. It identifies the different projects. And the project identification piece is really important too, because I think as we've seen from many of the funding programs that the provincial and federal government have rolled out in the last couple of years, they are really looking for what they call shovel-ready projects. And by shovel-ready, they want to know specifically what is the project and some criteria around that project. And so the master plan helps you to identify what are those projects and to start moving them closer to that shovel-ready state. That those funding agencies are looking for, so that you're ready to go when funding opportunities come out. You've got that project already defined, and you can kind of put that into that funding application and move forward with it. There's the sustainability principle. So the master plan, as I said, integrates that social, environmental, and financial aspects into looking at those projects. So you're talking to the public, you're getting the social input into those projects. You're looking at the environmental criteria. Sometimes you can identify environmental studies that may need to be done ahead of time. So again, moving that project towards that shovel-ready state. And it gives you that financial, it gives you some financial numbers of what those projects might actually cost. So that allows council to be able to look into the future and say, okay, we may need to do this project in the next 5 years. This is about how much money it's expected to cost, and we can start to plan for where we're going to get that money to actually execute those projects. And that sort of ties up into the capital planning side of that. So it gives you that 25-year long-term capital budget, capital plan, so that you can understand where you're going with all that. As I mentioned, the master plan is part of the municipal class EA process. So this is the flow sheet that is that's put out by the Municipal Engineering Association, which works with the MECP on master plans, on the class EA process. I'm not expecting anybody to read this. We could provide this if people want to see it in more detail, but just to show you, there's really four 4 sort of distinct phases of a Class EA. Phase 5 is the implementation piece. But the master plan basically allows you to complete phase 1 and phase 2 of the Class EA process. So that phase 1 is the problem identification, where you're identifying your problem and you're gathering some information. And phase 2 is to define the possible solutions to solving that, which includes identifying those projects. Once you've completed a master plan, you'll have a list of projects that you're able to put out there. And then if you want to move any of them into that phase 3 and 4 of the Class EA process, you can do it quite seamlessly because you've already executed phases 1 and 2. You just need to have somebody complete phases 3 and 4. You don't have to go back and start at phase 1 again. So it allows you to be a little bit more efficient as you're going through the capital plan or through the Class EA process. So what does Aqua do in helping our clients with completing master plans? So the role that Aqua plays is typically as an owner's engineer. And we have, as you know, many small communities across the province of Ontario. And we support them in really whatever way they need us to help them. So this is just, I'll call it more of a typical, it's not sort of cast in stone. We can kind of fill in whatever support is needed. But typically what we do is we start by helping to procure a consulting engineer to execute the master plan. We don't do the master plans ourselves. And by doing that, we prepare the terms of reference and we write up the request for services. And so that's a lot of data gathering. We try to understand what data you already have, where your growth plan may be, how much information is there, what the plans are, what drawings may exist, data that exists on the facilities, that type of thing. We put it all together. We write up what those services are. And then we put out that terms of reference. Oftentimes we can use our Aqua VOR process, which is our vendor of record process, which sort of shortens that procurement period, or we can help the town to put that out themselves if they would like to hire the consulting engineer directly themselves. And then we work with the town to answer any questions from the consultants during that tendering process. We review those proposals. We will offer recommendations and help in terms of where we think the right consulting engineer to go with based on their proposals. And then we would help the town in preparing a contract with that selected consulting engineering firm using either Aqua's sort of standard document, or we can work with the town on if you have a standard document yourself. And then the second part of this project, and sometimes we just stop there. We have a couple clients where we help them with sort of step 1, and that's it. And then they take over and work with the consultant on their own to develop the master plan. But if needed, we can also move into step 2, which is the project management and the technical review. So in that role, we really do act as the owner's engineer. We work with the consultants, we answer their questions, we sort of liaise between the town and the consultant as needed. We meet with the consultants on a regular basis. We make sure that they're adhering to their schedules and to their budgets. We look at their invoices to make sure that the invoices make sense and that we agree with what's on there. And then we work with the consultants to help gather the information from the town and pass back to the consultants, and also based on the knowledge that we have of the facilities ourselves. And then when the final deliverables come out, we actually do a technical review of those documents in conjunction with the town. So we give you some input on what our views are. We will talk to the consultants if there's things we need to discuss from a technical nature. So what does a master plan cost? I think that's probably the biggest question I get from everybody. So we've put some numbers here together. This is based on our experience in working on a number of master plans. I think we've done 3 or 4 so far this year with other communities. The master planning process can be long. It can take about 8 to 12 months to get a master plan out. Really, a lot of that depends on how much information you actually have in the first place. As I said, it does require some consultation with the public and other stakeholders like the MECP and sometimes some other government bodies as well. We've broken that down. It's sort of what Aqua services would be if we were to do the full project management of the master plan. The consulting engineering services range that we've put in there, again, is based on our experience over the past 2 years with getting consulting engineering proposals back. And that's sort of the range that they've been falling in. We threw in a bit of contingency in there just because sometimes we're not sure what information has to be generated and or what exists within the community. And then last, I think, but not least, the next steps. So as I said, the master plan can take up to a year to complete. If the town would like us, we can put together a proposal to you for Aqua to support you with developing a master plan. And then once approved, we would start with that terms of reference to onboard a consulting engineer. We would start to gather some data from the town on what is needed with that the consulting engineer will need to move forward with that. And we would send you a sort of a list of information that we are looking for. So any development plans, applications that you've got for development, any population projections, we'd work with you to gather that information and pull it together for the consultant. That is the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Lisa.
We're just gonna pass the resolution first and we'll have a discussion.
Perfect.
We need the lights out or?
Lights on, please. We should be able to.
I'm gonna stop sharing
Cool.
there.
Thank you. Oh, all right. We'll read the resolution, then we'll open the floor for discussion. It was moved by Councillor Cancel, second by Councillor Gattery. Be it resolved that council received the water and wastewater master plan presentation from the Ontario Clean Water Agency, Aqua, dated November 25th, 2025 for information. And that council directs staff to include the development of a water and wastewater master plan with an estimated cost range of $231,000 to $319,000 in the 2026 municipal budget for consideration. And that pending budget approval, council authorized Aqua to proceed with preparing the terms of reference and initiating the competitive procurement process for consulting engineering services required to complete the master plan. And that staff be directed to support Aqua in providing development projections, infrastructure data, and any required documentation to advance the master plan in accordance with the municipal class environmental assessment process. Having read that, I'm going to open the floor for discussion or questions to either Chris or I guess Lisa as well, or?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So, Councillor Campson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With our sewage and waste management being at 71% and the future growth coming quickly, what can we handle at this point? Because obviously it's going to take a year to get a master plan going, and then who knows what the cost of upgrading all these services is going to cost the township in the long run. This ain't going to happen in 3 or 4 years. This is like 10 to 15 to 20. So what can we handle right now for growth?
Through the mayor to Councillor Council. So as soon as we receive the numbers for your current development, we'd be able to, and Lisa knows they can correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be able to take those development numbers and add them into our wastewater current capacity, which obviously going to drive that percentage up. So the current development hasn't been encompassed into that 74% number yet. And then once you reach 80%, the ministry starts to look at triggering different mechanisms, costs, environmental assessment approval, because you're getting close to your capacity. And the data that I've shared with the CAO and deputy CAO, we do have times of the year where we double or triple our flows, right? If you get heavy rainfall events and everything that cause overflows that we have to report to the ministry. So once we get those numbers for the current development, we'll be able to add that into your plant capacities and see where we sit at that point. But you are correct, it is a long-term plan to be able to have development. If you do want to have all those items in line and be able to do your construction and be able to not overload your system. And then Lisa and Jose, if they want to add in, feel free as well.
Sure, thank you, Chris. Through mayor to councillor, really phase one of your master plan is that what they call the problem definition phase. And in that problem definition phase, that is a time to sort of gather that information and do that capacity assessment by looking at where you are today, maybe what you have planned for more the immediate future in terms of development, and trying to understand that. So you could get that answer out of a master plan earlier on in the process. It's not, you don't have to wait a year to get that answer. You could get that fairly soon in the process once sort of that phase one as one of the deliverables. And we can write that into our terms of reference for the consulting engineer that, as part of that problem definition, we'd like to see a technical memo that defines the current capacity and what's available and how much room you would have, that type of information. And that could come out quite early on in the process.
Mr. Giguere.
So what really triggered us to have Aqua come tonight was when we were talking with Chris and the first engineer about the things that we've already signed on doing, the project that are committed. They're like, you're gonna be awfully close. So if you plan on having future development, we gotta try to get ahead of it now. So anything that's been signed for, we should be good. It's for future development.
Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So this is like 230 to 300,000 above what we already paid for the fees for Aqua, right? This is a separate study, basically, is like an audit, I guess, you're doing, or?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bouchard, that's correct. It's above and beyond our current contractual obligations. And Aqua doesn't have to be the entity you go to, where you're supporting municipality, it could be any engineering firm in general. But that's correct. It's not really an audit, it's an investigation to see, like, exactly as Lisa mentioned, what problems you have, what you can accommodate right now with your sewer and water system, where you want to be in, say, 5 years, 10 years time with your development. And that master plan outlines how to get there, including possible projects that need to be done to be able to accommodate the excess loadings to your water and sewer systems. And Lisa and Jose as well, if we want to add on. Or if you're good with that.
No, I think you did a great job, Chris, in answering that question. Yeah, that's, it, and to just reiterate Chris's point, you don't have to have Aqua involved in this process. If you so choose, you could have a consulting engineer do this master plan for you. It's just that we do recognize at Aqua that this is sometimes a challenge for some of the smaller municipalities that we work with, because you don't always have the staff to also manage all of these other projects. So it's just something that we do at Aqua as an additional service over and above our operations to support some of our smaller clients and helping them to manage those consultants.
Councillor Bouchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there a way to, like $300,000 is 3% tax increase almost, it's quite a bit of money. Is there a way to at least do like an audit similar to this, but just say, okay, we're gonna look at what we know for sure is happening, like in 2025, we have on the board, and what we need to do in the next 2 years or 3 years to cut this down to, to 100 some thousand, where we know for sure we have to put a lift pump here, we know for sure, without looking like 10 years ahead of time, like.
That'd be more a Lisa and Jose question, but I think a master plan is all together on your long term projection. But they could correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yes, and no. So as part of the Class EA process, depending on what your upgrades are, there are requirements under the Class EA process to do certain activities. So depending on, if it turns out you have to do some upgrades, and I'm going by memory here, of 25% upgrade, then there are certain things you have to do under the Class EA process. So it's not quite so simple as just deciding that you need to build a new pump station someplace. That requires a whole planning process that you have to follow. So this kind of puts you on that track to understand what those projects are. And as part of the master plan, it identifies what's called like the Schedule A, the Schedule A+, the Schedule B, the Schedule C. Each of those types of projects requires certain parts of the Class EA process to be followed. And so it'll identify which of those projects are on that list, or which of them are sort of the simple ones to deal with and which are the more complex ones to deal with. So you kind of get that out of there. I do understand that that's a lot of money for a small community. One thing to also keep in mind is it might not have to be all in 1 year. So we could start the master planning process in 2026, and you could complete some of that in 2027, if that makes it easier to sort of spread it over 2 fiscal years. And spread that out. We can also work with you as well, you know, if there is an upset limit, and see if we can try and work with the consultants to keep it to a certain budget, if that helps as well. These are all things that we've done for many of our clients in the past.
Thank you, Lisa. Councillor Allen?
Is this pricing a reflection of the fact that we have Aqua already working with our municipality and knows a lot of the ins and outs of our current wastewater and water systems?
Through the mayor to mayor, to Councilor Allen, for sure. So essentially, Aquas, we're not a profit driven entity, we're obviously self-operational, so. Mr. Jiguero and Jose and Ganji, our service fees mostly on cap are 50% just to cover operating costs. So we feel we definitely be cheaper than if you're going out to a private entity, for sure. And that number I was given tonight again is a broad spectrum. We would have to narrow down and provide an actual proposal with terms and conditions as well.
Councillor Morse?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in the costing, it says Aqua Services 50,000 to 70,000. Would that be for step 1 and 2, or if we just decided to go with step 1, would the cost lower?
Through the mayor to Councillor Morris, sorry, I leave that with Lisa. They would be the one who would be pricing the proposal, Lisa or Jose.
That's that was sort of the all-in. So that's sort of taking it from the project from the start all the way through to the very end of the project. So yes, phases 1 and 2. As I mentioned, we do have a couple clients where, you know, they just want us to help them sort of get the project going and moving along, and then hand it back to the town to sort of move it forward themselves after that. That's another option that we could talk about if that works better for you. Like I said, we're pretty flexible. We kind of want to support whatever's needed at whatever level is needed.
If you don't mind, I'd like to add a couple of elements in there. Ultimately, those ranges are budgetary numbers that help municipality to place themselves in a position that can do some sort of a planning, try to move the master plan forward. Ultimately, this cost associated to any master planning depends on the scope of work that I think needs to be done to develop the master plan. Basically, we have been talking much of the time about the infrastructure above ground, the sewage treatment plant, the water treatment plant, but there is another component that is as vital as those elements, which is the underground infrastructure, your distribution system and your collection system. And I think we had that conversation with the municipal staff when we met a couple of weeks ago. The current infrastructure that we've seen there, at least that we have in paper that we know about, it may be a limiting factor for the growth, because you can only convey so much water or sewage based on the conditions you have. So the master plan will also try to look at those elements and give a comprehensive picture of what you can do with the current infrastructure, what you will need to do to improve your level of service moving down the road into the future.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you. Councillor Morse again?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be clear, who actually is constructing the master plan? Would it be the consulting engineer or would it be Aqua?
Through the mayor to would actually be the consulting engineer and overseen by Aqua's engineer as well on behalf of the municipality. Obviously hash out any technical issues and so on and so forth. So a lot of clients, it's a little bit of an expertise trait that like to have an owner's engineer on their behalf to ensure that everything that's being done is in accordance with the master plan and the best bang for your buck. Pretty well essentially project managing that.
Can I ask if you have any other communities that we could speak to that are currently doing master plans?
Yeah, Lisa or Jose, I'm assuming we would be able to provide a municipal reference.
Oh, definitely.
For sure, yeah.
Definitely. As I said, off the top of my head, between master plans and class CAs, there's probably 4 or 5 of them on the go at the moment that we're working with different communities of different sizes across the province.
I do see Powassan, Bruce Peninsula, and Centre Hastings.
Yeah, Senator Hastings rings a bell for sure.
That's Mado. Yeah, we did a
Yeah,
master plan for
Mado.
them on
Yep.
the water, sewage and stormwater as well.
I also know we're currently doing one I'm working on with in Alfred and Plantagenet,
Mhm.
which is out toward the Ottawa area.
Any other questions from council? No. So pretty much the reason that we have this delegation tonight is we can take one or two paths. We can not move forward with putting this money in the budget for next year and years after, and just build what's on the books for this year and then stay flat for the rest of time until we upgrade the sewage system. So if a new store wants to open up, or we want to build 20 homes or 50 homes, or what other developments we have, without this study, we're not gonna be able to say Masson's open for business. So it's a long-term plan, but it's also a long-term goal of ours. So it's putting money in the budget this year for 26, but we need to start now, because if we were to wait until 2030 and say, oh, we need to upgrade our plant, now we're talking 2035, and we've lost all the opportunity for everybody that's come here that wants to build. So that's the whole concept of why we're here. Councilor Gatter?
I'm thinking too, if we have to get ahead of it, if we wanna keep up with the growth.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're gonna be.
Yeah, if we don't, I don't know, I'm hard to say, but if we don't do this, then we can't grow. I guess that would be the worst words to use, but we can't grow. Councilor Bouchard?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I understand the urgency of this, but we also have to remember that there's also other municipalities that. Not necessarily everybody's gonna move to Matheson, so there's a possibility that it goes to other places, so. This only applies to the Matheson.
Yeah. And it's curtailed quite a bit as well to commercial development, where we have the most interest right now is massive for
Yeah.
commercial development.
Yeah.
Mr. Zagar?
We've also been working with Aqua to get all of our levels for all the other communities as well on what we have available for fresh water as opposed to our sewer water. So that when we are talking to investors, if there's the opportunity for something to go somewhere else, we're also having those conversations. So.
Are there any questions for Aqua before we call for a vote on this? No? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
everybody.
Lisa.
Lisa and Jose, thank you guys as well for attending with us this evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Do I want me to read the resolution again before we vote?
That's council.
Yeah, I know, I'm looking this way. I don't need to read the resolution again. Okay, so I'm gonna call for a vote on this Aqua presentation. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2. All right, that passes, carried. Thank you, everybody. Move on to new business. It was moved by Councilor Morris, seconded by Councilor Gathery. Be it resolved that council formally acknowledge and congratulate Matthew Gascon for achieving the professional designations of Municipal Law Enforcement Officer, MLEOC, and Certified Property Standards Officer, CPSO, and further recognize his commitment to advancing municipal enforcement standards and service to the Township of Black River, Masson. All those in favor? I take Mr. Matthews on here tonight.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay, congratulations, Matt, wherever you are. Was moved by Councilor Campbell, second by Councilor Bouchard. be resolved that council receive report CLK 2025-034 budget survey summary as information. Questions or comments on that budget survey? Councilor Morse.
I'm just a little bit concerned that less than 5% of eligible residents responded. I'm just wondering if in the future, if there was some way that we could get it out to more population. Mr. Cowell's father was actually called me and said he doesn't have access to the internet. He doesn't get out as much as he used to. If his son hadn't brought him the survey, he would have never known about it. And I've heard other seniors talk about too, that they had no idea about it. In fact, one of your staff members didn't even know about the survey. So I'm just wondering if there's a way that to get a more representation of our public, if we could get that out to more people in the future for both surveys.
Mr. Lee?
Through the mayor, we're gonna work on different avenues going forward. These are the first two stories that we did for this year. We're working with different avenues, but for sure in the future, work on streamlining it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have, Alden, do you have any suggestions as to, I've, maybe Mr. Lee would like some suggestions.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I was thinking possibly at the library, we could put them there at the post office. Or in the bulletin that Lisa does, just that something's coming up. Just ideas like that, just to let the public know that there is something out there. Or, for example, the one at the landfill, pass it out at the landfill. So that when people are there, they get the survey, we can do it, hand it back into them before they leave or bring it back to the city.
Okay. Councilor Allen?
Just kind of piggybacking on Ms. Morris's. I found that when you're looking through the landfill one as well, that the amount of questions, the detail in the survey, as great as it is to obviously give us that information, not everyone wants to spend the time and effort to go through the detail and pick, you know, what item they believe is the best. So if there's a way to have a short survey at the landfill, at even the township office for when people come in, so that it's just a small 1-page. And you might get maybe not a whole lot of information, but a little bit of it from a little bit of everyone.
Okay. Fair enough, thanks. Councilor Morse?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I also have a concern on the survey on number 3, where we got a really poor rating on understanding taxation and perceived value. We got a really bad, almost 50% of the people gave us, of the 49 people gave us a poor rating, poor value or very poor. So I think that maybe we should be looking at stuff like that as the clerk has suggested, in ways that we can make the public understand more of what we're doing with our tax dollars. Because that is very concerning that how people thought that we weren't doing a very good job.
Okay, that was number 3 you said? Yeah.
Yeah, number 3.
Yeah, all right.
Understanding taxation and perceived value.
Yeah, okay.
50% gave us a poor or very poor,
Mhm.
which is not a good number.
Okay, fair enough. Any other questions or comments? No. All those in favor? Carried. Was moved by Councillor Cancel, second by Councillor Bouchard, be resolved that council receive report CLK 2025-035 landfill hours survey summary as information. Questions or comments? Other than, I'm sure that it's similar comment where we need to communicate it better to the public, more avenues. Any questions, comments by council? No? Oh, Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just, having done the survey now, are we looking to leave the hours as they are, or are we gonna tweak the hours a bit to add more hours to that?
Mr. Jagger?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we're gonna use this survey to try to adjust the hours. We're also still, we just finished the cell in Valganye, and now we're gonna be moving to Madison. And we have a lot of work to do at our landfills and making sure that things are getting deposited in the right areas and removing the shacks and having continuous meetings with our landfill attendants as well. So we're hoping to have something back for the December 9th meeting. And I'm not saying that it's all gonna be laid out by there, but by that time, but we are looking at making an adjustment for sure.
Question, any other question, comments? Call for a vote, all those in favor? Carried. Was moved by Councillor Moore, second by Councillor Campbell, be it resolved that council approve expanding the youth gym membership age category from 16 to 17 to 13 to 17, with all existing supervision, liability, and orientation requirements remaining in effect. I'll open that up for questions or comments from council. Councillor Morse?
I have a question for you. Thank you,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor. I have a question for Lisa. Would that be the same, would they be charged the same price as an adult, 13-year-old?
Through the mayor to Councilor Morris, we do actually have a youth category for the price. Also, they would be charged accordingly for that.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, the Vern Miller Community Center application form doesn't show anybody at 13 to 15 years old. And if you scroll down, it actually says, so we wouldn't be using that type of format. Like, are they allowing 13 to?
And through the mayor to Councilor Bouchard, that's what I'm hoping to change.
Oh.
But that is, we included the current application, but residents have approached me requesting for our age to be lowered. We are actually the only one around called Cochrane, Kirkland Lake, Ansel Falls. And we're the only ones that don't offer 13 to 17.
Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, just a follow up, is our insurance gonna cover? If you go to that age group, there must be a reason why nobody else is allowing it.
Ms. Larson.
Through the mayor, Councilor Bouchard, when the gym originally opened, 'cause I've been here for a bit. It was just thought at that time, the younger youths were still developing and they just didn't want to impact harm on any of them. Our insurance, they're signing a waiver no matter what, there's a liability waiver.
I think it's the same as everyone on the ice in this. So why is somebody else allowing it?
You know,
We're the only ones that doesn't allow.
Oh, we're the only.
Yes.
But this form, it doesn't show that.
No, that's the existing form.
Yeah.
If we change it tonight, instead of being 16 to 17, 13 to 17, we'll change the form. So we're just trying to get more young children involved in our community and recreation. Councillor Bouchard.
I mean, as long as we have it in there that absolutely have to have parental guidance at that time for those people, then the risk, the parents basically take the liability.
Yeah, that could be part of the enrollment and the waiver form. Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor? Great, thank you. Was moved by Councillor Bouchard, second by Councillor Campbell, be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of T 2025-36 utility collection policy. And that council adopt the revised utility arrears collection policy as presented. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Allen.
So I just want to clarify, there was no policy before this.
Ms. Larson?
Through mayor to Councillor there was a policy. The previous policy included like a water shut off, But in Aqua, in following the policy this year, Aqua found that our infrastructure is getting old. And going out to turn water off for collections and turning it back on, we're risking more damage. So we cut that section of the policy out. We've always had the ability to take utility arrears and add it to taxes. It's just the water turning off isn't going to happen anymore.
Oh. Perfect.
Did you want to expand on Mr. Zager as to what some of the situation we've come across and
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Like this fall, we've seen a couple instances where we're going to shut off the water and turn it back, shut it off, and I think there's like we used to have like it was $100 fee or something. It was along them lines. Well, if we had to get Ray and Sons with the sucker truck to come in because we sprung a leak, well, it could cost us $5,000 to $8,000 for that one curb stop. So to charge someone $100 to turn their water back on, and it cost the rest of the taxpayers $5,000 to $8,000, we didn't see it being very just. So in talking with Aqua, we come up with a path forward on how it would stay on that run with resident and it wouldn't impact the rest of the residents.
Sorry,
Ms. Larson?
it wouldn't impact the rest of the residents. It's a water fix. So it goes into the water and sewer budget, so it's still just the user fees that
Yeah.
are impacted.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the water, yeah, but then your user fees will go up as well. Then.
For those users, yeah.
For all the
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
users,
Yeah.
yes.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments? Call for vote, all those in favor? Carried. Was moved by Councillor Cancel, second by Councillor Bouchard, be it resolved that council acknowledge receipt of report T 2025-38 credit card service fee update for information. And that council impose a credit card service fee in the amount of blank to be enacted by bylaw and incorporated into the township's user fee bylaw. We'll open that up for questions or comments from council. Councillor Cancel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the 2.4% user fee, and I think that's what we should apply to anyone paying with their credit card or debit or however they're paying on the machine.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is the treasurer, is, at 2.4%, we're gonna cover most of the costs.
I would, through the mayor to Councillor Bouchard. It depends what is being,
Or,
like what people are, how much they're paying. Because in the chart that I provided, it shows, you know, the costs for the users, there's our costs.
yeah, 'cause
It'll bring revenue in, at least it'll cover.
we did 611 transactions, and the cost of $23,674. That other taxpayers are basically paying for.
And
It works out to $38 a transaction, which is not only 2.4%. I know we've talked about this, so I know we've talked about this a lot, but we must still want to proceed with the.
Ms. Larson.
through the mayor to council. This was just brought to council originally as cost savings, that's what I was doing, just bring it to you as cost savings. We've done a lot of discussion. A resident actually brought forward, something that I noted in the report, and I checked with Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I was going under our user fee bylaw where we can adopt a user fee. Which the ministry said yes, but there was an actual law case and the municipality was challenged. And it was kind of noted 2.4% was a fair, reasonable charge, because also in the municipal act, it states. The charge should be fair, it should be reasonable, it has to be identified to the public and whatnot. So that's where 2.4 come from. In previous reports, I had given different percent options, I had given a flat rate option, but. To avoid challenge, That's why I've suggested either 2.4% fee or discontinue fees.
Councillor Bouchard?
Just, so basically we could review this in the year from now, see what was said.
Most definitely. Yes.
Councillor Morse?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For Sonia, will this put an extra strain on our staff in the front? Because I average it out to be about 10 transactions a day. So that's a lot.
Through the mayor, Councillor Morse. On tax time. It's fairly busy. So I would say yes, for sure, the receptionist will have to figure out the 2.4. I do have to check with them. Our provider, if we can just add this on to. Like as a fee, so when you go to use it, it's just gonna automatically do it. I do yet have to do that. I haven't gotten that far. We're still discussing. So I can look at that option as well.
Just remind council that in the bottom of the report, you can see that recommendation, we have a 1 or a 2. So the recommendation is either 2.4 or do not accept credit cards. So tonight, we're gonna pick one of these two as we move along the table so that the Treasury Department can move on to doing other things. Councillor Gatherer?
Can we just agree to accept it for a year and review it in a year to see if it works?
Somebody, okay, Mr. Jiguer?
Council can give us direction at any point in time to review any of these policies. So, absolutely.
Yeah,
If it's something that's like, so usually with treasury, we're going through our budget every year, right? And these are items that we look at, so. We can bring back a report in a year on how much it cost us in 2026. What's the 2.4% as opposed to previous years? It'll be a budgetary item, but we can make a note that as we're getting ready for budget next year to run a report to see where we're at.
Mhm.
And then bring those findings back to Mayor Council.
I just don't want us to be stuck with this if it's not working.
You could change it at any point in time if you have a mover and a seconder.
yeah, I just don't wanna continue to change things constantly. I mean, we live and die by our decisions. Councillor Allen, what are your thoughts here? Trying to get a consensus so we can.
Well, I'm leaning towards the 2.4%. And finding out maybe in 6 months, get a report back on it to see if it's deterring people from using their credit cards or not. If it is, and less people are using their credit cards, but the bills are still getting paid. Then we can look at possibly removing the option of credit cards altogether then. But I think giving them the option of paying a service fee to use the credit card is a great way of transitioning. If we do decide to go that way, but otherwise it's recovering some of our fees, so. It gets us back kind of on the equal side of things, so I think that's a good start and then go from there.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Cancel?
Thank you, sir. Lots of businesses add 2%, 2.5% to any visa that you use on their machine. So I don't see why we can't adopt and do the same.
Okay. Where are we leaning on the right hand side of the table? Any other comments or?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna read the resolution again. Let's to a vote. Be it resolved that council acknowledge receipt of report T 2025-38 credit card service fee update for information. And that council impose a credit card service fee in the amount of 2.4% to be enacted by bylaw and incorporated into the township's user fee bylaw. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff, for your reports too. Moved by Councillor Moore, second by Councillor Gatherer, be it resolved that council authorize the fire chief to execute the letter of authorization to secure the purchase of a new fire truck. And that the acquisition be financed through long-term debt as part of the 2026 capital budget. So the fire chief Guy Lamb is here tonight for any questions that we need answered. What we're looking for is approval for the treasury department to put that amount in the budget for 2026, and I guess we'll update later as to how it's financed and paid out. But we have a deadline for the purchase of the fire truck. And I think everybody has the original build specifications on the fire truck, and then we also have the options that were sent through tonight. So it's bringing the total from 649 to 704 plus HST. So I will open the floor. Questions from council. Councilor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a conversation with Fire Chief Lamb, and I was quite shocked to find out that of the 4 trucks, tankers, pumpers that we have, besides the new one that we bought in 2023, the other ones are 2003 and 1995. And if you were to look at the fire underwriters survey, I think the public should know that we are graded on our fire equipment, our insurance rates. So the older equipment is, the more our insurance rates for the public go up. Which is not a good thing because you already pay quite a bit of insurance. So by continually improving our equipment, our fire tankers, and besides that, the one that he wants to replace, if I'm not mistaken, he said there's not even parts available for it anymore, correct?
We're struggling to get parts. We've been probably 4 months just trying to get a cable for it, right?
And you also stated that that truck has to stay stationary by fire because it will freeze up if it goes out of the field, right?
Yeah, the master drain being broken, we had to cap it off. So if we go to a fire and it's below 0, we have to make it the main pumper. Because if we try shoveling water with it, it'll freeze and crack the pump and everything. So it has to be the main pumper. See.
Could I ask you to speak to each of the other fire trucks?
Yep, so the other fire trucks are 2003, remember correctly? So they're already 23 years old. NFPA says you should, your frontline pumper should be retired at 15 years. And you can extend them to 20 years as long as they're in good maintenance condition. Ours are, the 1995 is not in, it's a good truck, don't get me wrong, but as you can see, we're having trouble right now. With our huge geographical footprint, you have to shuttle water. You have no choice, you have to shuttle water. Taking one truck out of service hurts us, so then we can't shuttle water. If we have a breakdown of any truck, it could be the brand new truck that breaks down. That takes one more truck out of service, so then we've lost the buffer. To go back in history, we used to have 6 tankers/pumpers, and now we're down to 4. And the reason why we got 2, we got rid of 2 of them was we had maintained the fleet we had. But now we're at the point where we've got to start changing trucks out. And as you know, with the old 15, or maybe not everybody knows, we had a catastrophic failure on our old 15, which is actually a year newer than 14. We replaced it 2 years ago. So we're kind of in a vulnerable state with 14 windows. So.
Councilor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, and the statement here says that we paid off the snowplow truck, and where did the funds come from?
Ms. Larson.
Through the mayor's council. So we were supposed to apply for long-term financing. I put in the application, they wanted our 2023 financials. Our 2023 financials weren't done. By the time they were done and I went to apply, they now want the 2024 financials, which still aren't done. So I will not be able to apply for that loan until 2026. But we have it, it's paid. It's just been paid through our tax levy. So my suggestion, or one of the recommendations, was with Ontario infrastructure, any capital project we have, we purchase like the fire truck or the snowplow, we have 5 years, we could go back, say that 2 years down the road, we see we're struggling with funds. We could apply for a loan for that snowplow to get the funds to, offset whatever we need help with. So I'm just saying, we have it paid, let's leave it that way and we'll use the long-term financing for the fire truck, if that's how. Use,
So we didn't use any reserves to pay for it, it's used.
through the mayor to Council Boucher, as of right now, no, we have not. And. We're still sitting, okay, most of our major projects are done and. 2024 financials will be done, should be presented at our next council maybe. So come January, we'll be able to start.
Councilor Boucher?
What's our new dump truck? Is it Western Star or is it the like Western Star? I just figured it's the Freightliner, so I just want to.
Great for the parts supplier, Mr. Jager.
Also, in talking with all the department heads and with treasury, when it comes to capital for, any kind of major purchases for what we see in 2026. When talking with the Chief Lamb, we believe this was the year to go for a fire truck, cause next year on the public works side, like in 2027, we're gonna be needing at least one piece of equipment again, so. To try to make sure that we're not trying to put everything in 1 year. We felt like this year was the year to go for a brand new fire truck, and then in 2027, we'll be looking at another piece of machinery for sure. So we're just trying to separate them as well.
Councilor Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure there's grants. And loans and stuff out there that the government can help us with for these fire trucks at some point. Can we not get ahead of the ball and start? Doing some research for these 2003 trucks, so we're not stuck in the same boat where we're pulling trucks out of service. Because, or we're rushing to buy a truck now, because guess what, we can't fix this one. Can we not get ahead of it instead of waiting so long?
Mr. Lee and Ms. Schmidt are already looking into a couple of different grants as well. We Mr. Jager and I met a lady that's affiliated through some of the MPPs, and she sent us some information as to places we could also look some off the wall things. So they're looking at that as well. But the nice thing is, if we pass this and then in 6 months we are approved a grant, then we're ahead of the game. Councilor Morse?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just also wanted to say that if we decide not to move ahead and we do have to buy a truck next year, that 20% equates $140,000 more. So we'd be looking at $840,000 next year instead of $700 by giving him the letter of authority tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big chunk of change.
Councilor Bouchard?
Thanks. The kit for the phone is $30,000. Wow. But don't we have one of the trucks, and we have to have the foam on all the trucks, or does it have to be the only trucks?
We do have foam on other trucks, absolutely, and. At the end of the day, you gotta look at what you're gonna use the most, and foam is something we use quite often. And we're gonna get into more difficult fires with electric vehicles and that, and foam might be one of those applications that we're gonna have to start using more. It's way easier to have the foam installed now than later, because 50,000 would be, or 30,000 would be 50,000 if we put it in after. And if you were to go with inductors and stuff like that, as you would know, we have a past firefighter, there's a skill to using an inductor as opposed to an online system. Just the other note I should make too is we don't always just get one fire call. Right?
Yeah.
So if we get multiple fire calls, you're running out of trucks to roll those calls. Well, that's another point that you need to consider.
Yeah, if you even the radio installer charging us $10,000 to install a radio.
Yeah.
It's completely mental.
Like, don't get me wrong, if you notice, the price actually came down. There was a bit of a lull with this. I reached out to 3 different manufacturers, actually only one ever got back to me with pricing. They had a change of guard, so some people moved up in ranks, and my email went to their spam folder. So we had a delay in getting the pricing back. So we tried to turn it around, so I went through it with all the options that I think we needed. The only thing I didn't price in there would be, I'd like to send a couple individuals down during construction of it. Because we always get a surprise when the truck shows up that we should have did this or should have did this slightly different.
It's in Brampton, I believe, so it's not a huge cost to send a couple people down and look at the truck. So that would be added on, but I think we covered it off by sending it to the officers to review. And provide feedback. There's some small tweaking that we probably do on the truck. But the tweaking would probably balance out in changing a more expensive bulb for the least expensive bulb, stuff like that, so. Your ballpark figure would be pretty close to the same. And it's actually coming around 50,000 cheaper than what I originally talked to Sonia about originally.
Councilor Bouchard?
We're getting the 3-passenger cab, right? Not the. Yeah, not the extended cab, yeah. He said that as an option because that's a truck that they built for somebody, they never acquired. And there's $200,000 worth of options that they're basically gonna take a wash on. But the truck's too much for what we need. Well, we can't fit in our hall. Yeah, I was gonna say that we're restricted with the size of our. It would be nice to be able to fit 4 or 5 people in the cab. Yeah, ideally, that would be the truck you would want, because moving firefighters is another difficult thing, but our infrastructure just wouldn't hold it.
Which would be another meeting.
Yeah.
The other thing on the foam, having on the truck, not only is it skill, but it's time.
Yes.
So. If you don't have the skill and you're trying to get the foam to work, time is of the essence.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you're looking at $700,000, what's 30,000, really?
Yeah.
You realize the truck's only 4 feet long, right? Yeah. It wouldn't be able to fit, it's just if you can get it at the same price, I mean. It's the height. It's the height, okay. We're good for about 32 feet, and I think we're at 27 with the one I chose, the 2210. Yeah. And then the height, I think we're at 114, and I think we're good for about 116. So we're pretty, yeah. Now we have the measuring tape open a few times.
Well, fire trucks are a necessity. We need to keep our residents safe. And with the increased traffic on the road. Obviously the foam is a good option, but it's only gonna get worse in terms of number of traffic accidents around here. Any other questions from council regarding this resolution? Okay, and I'll call for a vote then. Be it resolved that council authorize the fire chief to execute the letter of authorization to secure the purchase of a new fire truck and that the acquisition be financed through long-term debt as part of the 2026 capital budget. All those in favor? Carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to reports. It was moved by Councilor Bouchard, second by Councilor Allen. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of CLK 2025-033 October monthly report, clerk as attached for information purposes. Questions or comments for the clerk? All those in favor of receiving the report? Moved by Councilor Morris, second by Councilor Bouchard. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of T 2025-37 October monthly report treasury as attached for information purposes. Any questions for the treasurer? Councilor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering, on your report, it says, tax and utilities, it said impact seen a growth of almost 4 million growth in assessment of farmlands. Is that correct? 4 million growth?
But to the mayor, to Council Morris, do note, as I noted, the tax rate for farmlands is only 4.
Yes, yeah.
So we are one of the larger, we have seen one of the largest growth around, but it's farmland, it's not residential or commercial or.
So my question would be, would that be expansion of the farms that exist, or would that be new farms that have new farms that are being opened? Because if it's a new farm, they would have a building or a house that would go with it. If it's an expansion of the current farmland, then that would be different. So is it new farmland?
To the mayor, Councilor Morris, it's a little bit of both. Like, so some of the places already have their farms, they bought other property. They may have just bought the property and they haven't. Put a house on it or, you know, a barn or anything yet.
Okay, thank you.
And then some of them are starting as bush lots as well,
Yes,
which is a different assessment rate again. As a farm rate,
if they're farming it, it would be class farm. This is just farm.
Yeah.
Most,
when they
mostly of our.
when they convert from bush. Forest
Bush,
to,
it's, there's no, it
No.
would be a residential,
okay,
even our vacant properties
Okay.
and.
any other questions for the treasury? All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Campbell, be it resolved that council acknowledge the receipt of DR 2025-011 October monthly report recreation as attached for information purposes. Any questions for the recreation? Nope, oh, Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to know, are we doing any progress on the report? To get to that one.
Through the mayor to Councillor Bouchard, I know that Whole Hire is completely finished. I believe that the inside of Raymore is finished. It was a little bit different. It wasn't regular toilets in there. So we had some assistance with our public works department to help us change those out. I think there might be a couple of boards to change, nothing.
Yeah, it'd be too late now.
Well, I mean, it's really not too bad until tonight finishes, I think.
Did they get the lights?
I believe all the lights have been completed now, yeah.
I was really not straight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Morse?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank the Director of Recreation because of the kids sport that she has brought to the community, because I think that is a very crucial, vital thing that we need. And I would also like to thank Councillor Campbell for his generous donation, the first donation and a generous donation of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Morse. Just to remind the public that Lisa is looking for volunteers. So as council and staff, we put together the outdoor rinks and we put the lights and the improvements. So we're hoping that everybody, someone can step forward to volunteer. But having said that, and following the coattails of what Councillor Moore said, is are we communicating that other than through Facebook or social media to the residents?
Yeah, through the mayor to council, I have actually included it in the bulletin.
Okay,
And our bulletin, unfortunately, does go out to all residents that don't get flyers. Like, as long as they get flyers, they get it, but we also provide extra ones at the library, thanks to Margaret, at the post office, here at the office, so they're very readily available. So this bulletin is quite jam-packed because we missed the September 1 due to the postal strike. So we try to get in as much information as possible, and we have a lot going on for the holiday season, so there's lots of.
great. Thank you. Call for vote. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Bouchard, be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of FC 2025-10 October report fire department as attached for information purposes. Any questions for the fire chief? Councillor Morse.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fire Chief Lamb, this was brought up now twice that I've seen in reports regarding the back lane entrance to the Matheson Fire Hall. Would you be able to explain? It's not for you to be able to park by the back door, correct?
Correct. I do park back there, but
That's not the reason.
that's not the reason. It's the route. So anybody coming, say, from the northeast, when they come to the fire hall, instead of going down to 6th Avenue around the hall and back in the other entrance, they can easily come through the back lane and into the parking lot. The other if you're coming from the northeast and you're going in that way, or even south, you come in around, and if you go around the fire hall and the fire truck's pulling out, now you have to stop to allow the fire truck out. And the other thing is, not everybody may know, it's quite often that people actually park beside the fire hall. It's usually people visiting at the seniors building. So if they're parked there, we can't get in that other, so we only have one entrance and it's blocked, then we can't get into the parking lot. So the back way is the second way for us to get in, and anybody on this side, that's the way they come into the fire hall.
Okay.
It's been a proven rule since I was a kid.
Thank you for clarification.
And if you live on Railway Street and you go to the fire department, you have no choice but to block the fire trucks every time you go.
That's true.
Yes. Been there. Any other questions for the fire chief? Okay, all those in favor? Right. Was moved by Council Boucher, second by Council Allen, be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the library CEO monthly report for October 2025 and receive the minutes of the library board meeting held October 15th, 2025 as attached for information. The library CEO is here. If anyone has any questions for her, please. Councilor Morse.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to commend Margaret Ann on everything that she's done for our community. When you just look at these reports of how many activities that you plan to do for our community, it's amazing. And I was just wondering if you could expand on your positive jar that I think.
We just have a mason jar sitting on my desk, the checkout desk, and paper and pen, and we just ask people to put a positive comment about their day, the library, whatever they want.
And you read them, or is it?
Every month I'll look at them and put some in my report and share with the staff what they are, and because a lot of them have to do with, talking about how nice the staff are, the rules and stuff, so I make sure that they know that they're appreciated and stuff like that.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
How is the ramp? How's the door?
That's right.
The door.
It's coming along nicely.
So we're getting there.
Yeah.
I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Campbell. Be resolved that council acknowledge the receipt of Aqua Drinking Water and Wastewater Systems quarterly report as attached for information purposes. Questions or comments on that report? Councillor Morris?
Thank you. I guess something just, I know nothing about Aqua or anything. I haven't even visited any of the sites, but on the Matheson WPCP, there was a sentence that caught my eye. It said, it was discovered that a barrel of sodium bisulfite from the supplier had old rags in it, which caused the pump to clog and shut down. Is that normal?
I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. Lee. He has more familiar.
Through the mayor, I actually used to work with Aqua in operations. That is definitely not normal. They probably noted that because the pump probably caused the call out. Calls are part of the servicing agreement, so if we go over too many, then it affects our budgeting and our billing. They're just letting us know that it's a manufacturer, that's what probably caused the call out.
Thank you. Any other questions? Call for a vote. All those in favor? Move on to bylaws. Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Gadry. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-69 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Township of Blackburn-Masson be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 25th day of November 2025. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Bouchard. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-63 being a bylaw to amend 2020-07 procedural bylaw be read a third and final time this 25th day of November 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Brings us to our closed session. It was moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Campbell. Be it resolved that council now proceeds into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 7:54 p.m. in accordance with section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 to discuss the following matters: a presentation and discussion related to physician recruitment involving personal matters about identifiable individuals, under subsection 239(2)(b). All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much to the public for attending. Thank you, staff, for coordinating.